fellas, lady fellas, F&R Society, welcome to the Fantasy and Reality Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Spencer Tacker. Today in the ridiculously over-decorated studio, we'll be going over more positional rankings. We're going to go over quickly, hopefully, the wide receivers. So I'm going to try to throw these guys out to you to see what I'm thinking and how I think these guys are going to fare at the end of the season. So that's basically what this is about. I'm going to try to give a brief explanation, but just throw all these guys out at you. So to start out, my number one, DeAndre Hopkins. D-Hop is fantastic. I think he's going to be that number one guy, going to get all the volume. Who knows if the guys, QT and Will Fuller, stay healthy. Deshaun Watson is going to target D-Hop like crazy. So if he can see all the volume that he should, he's going to be my number one guy. Number two, Devontae Adams. Consistency like crazy. He's been consistent so long. So if he can do the same thing, he'll either be number one or number two. My number three guy, I have Julio Jones. If he could see more touchdowns, there's no reason why he shouldn't be the number one, because he's going to see 8 billion yards. So if he can get those touchdown stories up, he should definitely be maybe number one, possibly. Number four, I have Odell Beckham Jr. OBJ going to a new team, but Baker's arguably a little bit better than Eli. So if Baker can throw it to that dude, he's going to be fantastic. He also has potential to be the number one guy. Number five, I have Juju Smith-Schuster, and another potential number one guy. If you can see the volume, Big Ben's going to throw to him like crazy. So, I mean, all those vacated targets from AB and Jesse James. And even though AB left all those targets, half of them aren't going to go to a Juju. That's going to be ridiculous. So, I mean, he'll get quite a few more, but not a substantial amount. So, if he sees above 125 or so targets, 140, then he's going to be super valuable. I mean, he already is going to be super valuable. He might be your number one receiver, but he has potential to be the number one overall at the end of the season if he can see a few more targets that were vacated from AB. Number six, I have Michael Thomas. I have him a tad bit lower because he's not going to see as many opportunities. I mean, he's going to see quite a bit because he's Drew Brees' number one. It's just that I think they're going to run a tad bit more. So these other teams, they're probably going to run a whole lot more. And so that's why Michael Thomas is lower on my list, just because of opportunity, not because of talent or anything like that. Because Michael Thomas is basically just as good as anyone in the top five, but it's the slight volume decrease from these other guys that puts him outside the top five. Number seven, I have Mike Evans. I think he's going to do fantastic. If he come back from that quad, groin, whatever injury he has, and Jameis Winston can actually find him and be accurate, then he's going to be a top 10 no matter what. Number eight, this is where I have Antonio Brown. Even though he's doing all this ridiculous stuff with the helmet and the feet and everything going on, he's still AB. He's probably, hopefully, going to do AB things. So he definitely should finish in the top 10. Number nine, I have Keenan Allen. Another guy who, if he can be 100% healthy and see more touchdowns, he'll be in the top 10. But if he could see a few more of those touchdowns from Rivers, he could creep up to the 6-7 position if some other receivers were to fall off a bit. Number 10, I have Tyreek Hill. And I think he's going to be another fantastic guy. He was number one overall wide receiver last year in fantasy. So if he can keep on keeping on with Patrick Mahomes, do their thing, he's going to be a fantastic guy. Number 11, I have Brandon Cooks. He's very high upside guy, and if he can see those crazy deep balls or stuff from Jared Goff, he's going to be great. Number 12, I have Stephon Diggs, another high upside guy, and if he can also see the long balls, he's going to be a good guy. 13, I have Robert Woods, the more consistent guy from the Rams. He's going to see, like I said, consistency like he always does. He won't see those crazy amount of games where he has a large amount of points, but he'll be consistent throughout. Let's say he might have an average of 18 per game points, but Cooks might have like a 30, a 2, a 20, a 9. Like he's more up and down, and Woods is much more straight across and consistent. And at 14, I have the consistent guy from the Vikings. I have Adam Thielen. So Diggs and Cooks are similar, and Woods and Thielen are similar. So the consistent guy in the Vikings, he had all those 100-yard games. I believe it was like 8 to start out the season, and then he kind of fell off, but apparently there was something going on between him and Kirk Cousins. So if they can resolve that, do what they do, he can be a great top 15, hopefully. 15, have Julian Edelman. And with Josh Gordon coming back, he might take a few carries away, but I actually think it'll help out Julian Edelman more because they're not going to focus on him all that much for defense. So if the defense looks a little bit towards Josh Gordon, then it should hopefully bring a few more one-on-ones with Edelman. 16, I have Amari Cooper, and he's one guy that's very inconsistent. He has a 40-point week and a 5-point week and a 50-point week and a 10-point week and a 30-point, So he's just up and down and up and down and up and down. You almost get seasick from watching this dude go across the season. So if you like the high upside, get him. I'm more of a consistency guy, so I might stray away from him. If he drops to me, yeah, obviously. But I just probably won't target him, especially with the whole injury. And we're not sure how severe it is when he's going to come back. So he's just based on the giant games he could have, he could be a top 15, even 10 receiver just because of his possibility of having tremendously huge games. Number 17, Chris Godwin. I think he's going to eat this season. All the vacated targets there. Again, if Winston can sharpen his skills and find Godwin, I think Godwin's going to be awesome. Calvin Ridley, number 18, another backup to a really good receiver. I think Godwin's going to do a tad bit better than Ridley, but Ridley should still be a really good guy to target. Number 19, I have Tyler Lockett, and since he's the pure number 1 with all the injuries and whatnot going on in Seattle, I think Tyler Lockett's going to do even better this season. Number 20, I have Mike Williams, a guy that I'm super high on. I think he's going to see a lot of volume, especially if Melvin Gordon's out. They're going to see a lot more passing done by Phillip Rivers. So hopefully that means that Mike Williams will get a lot more looks and targets and possibly more catches than he would have if Gordon was there. So hopefully that means good things for Mike Evans. I'm high on him, like I said. So hopefully he can finish a top 20 receiver. 21, I have Tyler Boyd, because he's basically the number 1 for a while. AJ Green, who knows, he might end up retiring too, just like Andrew Luck, just up and retire. But if he doesn't, then comes back a few weeks from now, I think Tyler Boyd will be a bit more relaxed and can get those numbers to be a really good guy, because as the number 1, he does okay, but he's definitely better as the number 2. And number 22, I have Jarvis. I think he's going to do fantastic. He was one guy that I wasn't that crazy about whenever the OBJ trade happened. I thought that he was kind of going to fall to the wayside and be not as important, but as the offseason went by, and I got higher and higher on Jarvis, and now he's probably the guy that I've switched opinions on the most, from not liking him all the way to I think this guy is going to be sneaky good, because this is the best quarterback he's ever had, and he has a number 1 receiver on the opposite side to take away attention from him. So I think Jarvis could be sneaky good this season. Number 23, I have Robbie Anderson. Number 1 to Sam Darnold. So if good Darnold can be that nice, decent quarterback and target Anderson as his number 1, he should definitely finish in the top 25. 24, this is where I have T.Y. Hilton, because of the whole luck thing. He would have been probably top 15. But Jacoby Brissett, I think he's obviously going to have to lean on T.Y. and Mac to get through each game, but I just don't see him having the outrageous volume that he did with Andrew Luck, so that's why I have him just inside the top 25. At 4, number 25, I have Kenny G, old smooth Kenny Galladay. And I would have him higher, but I'm just not that crazy about him now. He's the guy that I've probably gone opposite to Jarvis on. Like, Galladay was here, Jarvis was here, and now they're kind of right there. I'm not that crazy about Galladay because I think Marvin Jones is going to come back and do well, and you can get Marvin Jones way later. So I still think that Galladay is going to produce, but I would rather have Marvin Jones. 26 is where I have Cooper Kupp. Mentioned by worrisome questions about Kupp, and apparently this guy's a robot, because if he has a great season, it's going to be crazy, because as you should know, he got injured and tore his ACL in November. So I mean, if he comes back this fast and is super fantasy relevant, it's going to be crazy. I'll be very surprised. I just think it might be too good to be true, you know? And so if he might try to flash and be too crazy at the beginning of the season, he might just get hurt again, which is very worrisome for me. 27, I have D.D. Westbrook, very high on him. Nick Foles, a good quarterback. So D.D. should be his number one. He's done well so far in the preseason and in camp. So if he can continue to do that, he should hopefully be a top 30, even maybe top 25. Number 28, I have Christian Kirk. Lately, he's been falling down just a tad, but I have him finishing at 28. I think he's going to be decent because Kyler Murray should throw it a decent amount, and he'll probably be the number one guy, but Larry Fitz will be close behind. 29, I have Curtis Samuel. Very high on Curtis Samuel. I think he's going to do fantastic if Cam Newton can come back and not rush this new injury that he has. Then Curtis Samuel should be a very good guy because he's going to be valuable, going lower than DJ Moore, and he might potentially be the number one. 30, QT. Again, another guy who, if he can stay healthy, because he had a little scare earlier in the preseason, if he can stay healthy and produce, he's going to be a good number two, maybe, between him and Will Fuller. We'll see who's number two, but I think he will be a little higher across from D-Hop. So if Kiki can stay healthy, he should get the job done. 31, a guy I'm super high on. I like Dante Moncrief. He should hopefully see the volume. Another guy who's across from a really good number one that won't see as much attention. So hopefully he can light the field up, get like 1,000 yards, and be a hopefully top 25 receiver. Number 32, another guy who's kind of dropped down a bit, Dante Pettis. I think this is where he'll finish. I had him in the mid-20s before, but lately he's kind of falling off a bit, so I don't think he'll produce as much. He's still going to be a great guy, still going to be valuable for your team. It just depends on where you get him, because this is where I kind of have him finishing at. 33, I have Allen Robinson. I think he's going to be good. I just don't know about the Anthony Miller thing. With Miller possibly being hurt and missing a few games, that'll definitely benefit Allen Robinson, but I think Miller might try to jump him for the number one spot. So if Robinson can keep that from happening, finishes a top 30 or so guy with Trubisky, then he should definitely be a good value to your team. 34, this is where I have AJ Green, because he's going to produce. It's just how much, and if he's going to stay hurt or if he's going to quit out halfway through the season, what's going to happen. So I don't have too many high expectations about AJ Green. I probably won't draft him unless it's like somehow he didn't go drafted like the last round. Other than that, I think he's going to finish kind of mid-30s or so if he comes back decently healthy. 35, this is where I have DJ Moore. And like I said earlier, I think Curtis Samuel is going to jump him possibly. There might see similar numbers, but I just don't see DJ Moore doing better than Curtis Samuel. 36, I have Alshon Jeffrey. I'm not crazy about Alshon this year. I think he's going to do okay, but I don't think he's going to do like that great to be a top 30, even 25 receiver. I think he's going to be right outside that top 35 or so. So this is where I have him finishing at. 37, I have Sammy Watkins, the lizard man himself. If he can do decently well, he'll probably finish in the top 30. I don't know, with all his injuries, history, and things like that, he might just miss a few games that are going to be valuable to him and his numbers. So it's going to topple him just outside the top 35. 38, I have Marvin Jones. I think he's going to do decently well. I'm not sure how well he'll do off of that injury, but if Stafford can focus on him and target him a lot, he should be a top 40 or so guy. 39, I have Will Fuller. And I like Will Fuller a bit more than Kiki QT, but I mean, they're both really good. It's just that, will he stay healthy? Because the last few seasons he hasn't. He was doing amazing before the whole injury, but since then, it's kind of fallen off for him, and QT could jump in for that number 2. Number 40, I have Larry Fitzgerald. I think he's going to end the season, hopefully with a bang, maybe his career. So hopefully he's going to be a top 40, top 35 guy, maybe take a few looks away from Christian Kirk and be that number 1 in Arizona again, because dude is so consistent, so amazing, so awesome. So hopefully he can finish higher than I have him, but we'll see. 41 and 42, this is where I have MVS and Geronimo Allison. I think they're going to see very similar numbers because I don't know if Rodgers will pick one of them to be the straight number 2. So I think they'll kind of split it up, just like in Houston with D-Hop, QT, and Will Fuller. It's going to be Devontae Adams, MVS, and Allison. So they might kind of split it up, but I think they're a little bit closer than QT and Fuller. So that's why I have them back to back. 43, I have Golden Tate. He should probably be the number 1 whenever he gets back from a suspension. I have Sterling Shepard right after because he's probably going to finish right below, because he's going to be able to get a few games if he comes back early before Tate, to get a few numbers before he comes back, and then once Golden Tate's suspension is over, he'll probably be the number 1 and take a little bit more volume away from Shepard. So I think they'll have very similar numbers. 45, I have Courtland Sutton. He should hopefully finish higher, man, because he's a really good receiver, but I just don't know if he can capitalize on it, because last year he kind of fell flat. So if he can actually do something, he'll finish top 40, maybe top 30. But as of now, I have him just outside the top 45. 46, I have Corey Davis, and I'm not too crazy about Corey Davis because he always shows up in preseason and disappears in the regular season. And so with Mariota, not a great combination. So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's outside the top 50. I wouldn't be kind of surprised if he's in the top 30. That would be much more surprising. So this is where I have him because I'm not too excited to see his production. 47, Anthony Miller, and the guy is a little bit injured right now, but if he can come back and take a lot of targets from Allen Robinson, then he can be a top 50, maybe even top 40 guy as being a backup with Trubisky. So if he can show out, I think he'll do well. 48, Deshaun Hamilton. I think he's going to be breathing down Sutton's neck. With Emmanuel Sanders coming back, I don't know how that whole thing is going to play out, but I like Hamilton a lot. I think he's going to do real well. I think he's going to finish very closely behind Sutton, so that's why I have him at 48. 49, I have Deebo Samuel. I think he's going to do really well. I like him a lot on that San Francisco offense. And if Jimmy G can find him, then he should do well. With Pettis and Kittle there, he might be a good number 3 to have on there. So hopefully he'll finish in the top 50, but who knows. And for number 50, I have DK Metcalf. He was a little higher, but he's an okay receiver. Not the great route runner, super big Hulk-looking guy, but he's kind of a one-trick pony. He's starting to learn new stuff, but he had that scope done and a partially torn meniscus possibly, I think. And so if he can rehab that properly, I think he'll do well. But I'm just not too crazy about him. He might finish in the top 50. I have him right there at the line, but I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't. But that was a bit long-winded, but those were my top 50 receiver rankings. Tell me who you liked, who you didn't like, who you thought was too high, who you thought was too low. You know the deal. As always, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your support. Leave your topics, suggestions, questions, feedback down there in the comment section below. We'll try to answer any and all questions that you have. Remember that sports is supposed to be enjoyed together, so please tell someone about us so we can grow our channel as much as possible and give and receive as much education about the fantasy football topic as possible to make us hopefully the fantasy GOAT. And in order to grow our community, you have to smash that like button, hit subscribe, tell people about us. We'll try to give you as much important content as possible. But lastly, God bless America and God bless fantasy football. Take care.